Good morning. Bonjour. Ni hao. In fact, let me start that again. Good morning. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Et toi? Ça va très bien. Ni hao. Hola. Ohio. Bienvenue. Wan Ying. Bienvenidos. Yokoso. And welcome. Welcome to another exciting and amazing episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And each and every week, I get the distinct honor and privilege of taking you on a journey to places you've never been before, to hear stories you've never heard before. Each and every week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take you on a mental, physical, spiritual adventure into the art, science, history, and magic of gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry. And because I know the transformational powers of stories, because I know what stories can do, I have absolute confidence that somewhere along the line, somewhere in this journey that you and I are taking together each and every week, I know that one day you're going to hear a story that's going to move you. You're going to hear a story that's going to make you see the world in a different way. And each week, my job, my mission, my purpose is to create a sound that no one has ever heard before. And my hope is that that sound resonates inside of you. That sound begins to help you find the music that lives inside of your heart and inside of your mind. And I think if you start to recognize that music inside of you, then you can use it as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge to help you on your journey to discovering the value of your own stories, of who you are as a person, to who and how you resonate with the people around you, with the people in the world. This has been a really, oh my God, it feels like you and I have not been together for a year. There's so much that has happened since the last time we talked. And first, I want to thank all of you who watched Saturday, to have watched the one of the greatest moments in my life. And when I picked up this little thing, I mean, an Oscar, an Oscar. I was awarded an Oscar for being the Global Teacher of the Year for 2021. And every time I say it, it's magnificent. It's magnificent. I can't help thinking about where I was, how far this journey has taken me. So before we talk about the magnificence of Saturday evening, I want to go back. I want to go back to the beginning. I want to go back to when we first started this journey between you and I. Because what happened Saturday was the quintessential example of what can happen to you when you begin to understand the power of stories. Ladies and gentlemen, each week when I come on in front of you and come into your homes and your cars or wherever you listen to me and the sound of my voice and my stories, I want you to understand that this is not just something that let me just talk about. This is a movement for me. This is a promise that I made to God. Hey, Barbara. How are you? Barbara just came in. Hey, Barbara, executive producer, Barbara Beckley. And I need you to understand that the things that I talk about in my show, in this show, is not just, I believe in it. I have seen it work. And what I want to add, because I'm a scientist, I want you to understand that this is not just something that I'm saying. This is something that I'm living. This is something that I am embodying. And that's what you saw. You saw the culmination of that on Saturday. But I want to take you back. And I told you many times that where I was 29 years ago. I need you to understand the circumstances that I began to find out the power of storytelling. As I told you before, I was homeless. I want you to understand that when I came here in the summer, Chicago, in the summer of 1992, uh, I had a job, I had a place to live, and one thing just led to another. Like it's happening for so many of us all over the United States, all over the world. COVID, job loss, things of this. So that's where I was in 1992. And so I came to Chicago in the summer of 1992, and by the winter of that year I was homeless. And Chicago's not my hometown. I'm from New York originally, as you can hear my accent. So when I began to realize that homelessness, the darkness of homelessness was starting to encroach on me, it was around December when I began to honestly understand that this was it. This was homeless, and this was homelessness, that it was right there. And I had no other option. I couldn't go back home to New York. I'm Barry Mixon. Oh my God, I couldn't bear to go back home and deal with that. So I stayed here. I was marooned here. And death was imminent in my head. As it got colder and colder, all I had with me was whatever I could fit into a military style of the military. It was a military issue duffer bag, my Marine Corps duffer bag. And in that bag, I had this book, As a Man Thinketh. And when I tell people how I got out of homelessness, and I tell them that book, some people resonate with it, some people hear it, but a lot of people, because it's like they think that the only way for you to move forward, the only way God works through you to move forward is through the Bible. Well, and so when people would say, well, what else? I would tell them what happened, what else, how it happened, and go, well, what else? Because they were expecting me to say, I read some scripture in the Bible, or I went to church, or things of this. And that's not what happened to me. That's not what happened to me. So when people would tell me, when I would tell them about As a Man Thinketh, and they would talk about the Bible, I began to say, well, what's happening in the Bible? That why does this scripture, As a Man Thinketh, resonate with me so strongly? And I thought that maybe there were people over here that believed in the Bible and in God and Christianity, and then there was me. So I used to tell people all the time that I was a heathen, because I would say it, and because I felt like you had to choose a side. And my spiritual advisor, I'm gonna put on that blast, Reverend Dr. Joanne Lindstrom, told me one day that she said, "Boy, please, you talk about God more than anybody else." And I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "All that stuff that you talk about, the force and As a Man Thinketh, that's all in the Bible." And I'm like, "For real?" She said, "Yeah." So I looked it up. Excuse me. I looked it up, and I literally just Googled As a Man Thinketh and the Bible. And there was several scriptures that fit, but the thing that fit me was Romans 12:2. And I'm going to stop here for a second, because that sound that you heard, that thud, was about 100 people all over the world just falling out because Barry B. Mixon actually has a Bible in his hand. Yeah, and reading it. But Romans 12:2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, and what is acceptable and perfect. That's what Romans 12:2 says. Well, God didn't bring me that scripture. God didn't bring me that scripture. In fact, I did not go to church, or I did not really, what I thought, did not pray to God, because to me, I thought it was rude. People, I used to say God was for everybody else. So to me, to go to God, to go to church and go, please help me, I felt like that was just rude, because I had a lot of friends who were Christians and went to church and believed in the Bible. And I felt like for me to do that would be like, I imagine God kind of being, for at least God is kind of like a stand-up comedian for me. And I figured that God would come to me and say, as I'm begging, please, God, help me. I figured God would say, oh, I see. Now you need me. No. And I didn't want to be rejected. This is what I was thinking in my mind. I didn't want to be rejected by God, so that would have been bad. So God didn't bring me the Bible. He brought me As a Man Thinketh. And what I would like to do today is to get you to understand how Saturday happened. How could a man who have gone through, and again, my troubles are no longer, or no better, no worse than a lot of people are experiencing, far worse than I've had right now, right today. They are experiencing bills and divorce and illness and COVID and unemployment and all kinds of other things. So I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that my trials and tribulations are worse than other people. This is not a pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of session. This is understanding that the thing that I realized, not only just then, but 29 years later, the thing that I realized, the secret, is understanding stories, understanding the power stories, understanding how you had to get to the point where you value your own stories. So I'm going to read you a story. Some of you've heard it before. Some of you have embodied it. Some of you understand it. But every once in a while, I still get people who will ask me, how did that scripture, As a Man Thinketh, save me? So what I want you to do is think about Saturday. Think about those you saw me. Think about, me standing on that world stage, receiving an Oscar, literally an Oscar. And I told Danny Davis while I was up there, as I looked at that, I said, when they have your name on the trophy, you know it's real. And she laughed. He was like, you got that right. I mean, they gave me a congressional medal. A congressional medal coming from a congressman. So what I want you to do is think about how 29 years ago, this time of year, I was living in a dumpster. Only had the clothes on my back and whatever clothes I had in the bag. And yet now, on last Saturday, I'm standing there in front of the whole entire world. And I want you to hear, I want to set that up because I want you to hear how I got there. Now people say, you hear the different stories and you ask people, how did they get there? And they go, well, by the grace of God and this and all this other stuff. But I know exactly how it happened for me. So please allow me to go through this and let you experience what I experienced so long ago and every day since then. It comes from this section of the book, as visions and ideas. And the whole book is, I don't know, 300 pages, something along those lines. Oh, yeah, 300 pages. But it was literally 4 pages, 3 pages that changed my life. Dreamers are the saviors of the world. As the visible world is sustained by the invisible, so men, through all their trials, sins, and sordid vocations, are nourished by the beautiful visions of the solitary dreamers. Humanity cannot forget its dreamers. It cannot forget they cannot let their ideas fade and die. It lives in them. It knows them as the realities which it shall one day see and know. Composer, sculptor, painter, prophet, poet, sage, these are the makers of the afterworld, the architects of heaven. The world is beautiful because they have lived. Without them, laboring humanity would perish. He who cherishes a beautiful vision, a lofty idea in his heart, will one day realize it. Columbus cherished the vision of another world, and he discovered it. Copernicus fostered a vision of multiplicity of worlds, and he revealed it. Buddha beheld the vision of a spiritual world of stainless beauty and perfect peace, and he entered into it. Cherish your visions, cherish your ideas, cherish the music that stirs in your heart, the beauty that forms in your mind, the loveliness that drapes your purest thoughts, for out of them will grow all delightful conditions, all heavenly environment. Of these, if you but remain true to them, your world will at last be built. To desire is to obtain. To aspire is to achieve. Shall man's basic desires receive the fullest measure of gratification, and his purest aspirations starve for lack of substance? No. Such is not the law. Such a condition can never be. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so you shall become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. Now, I knew that part. I would read that part, but the thing that really got me, the part that I know, the part that I have completely embodied, the thing that I would say each and every day, sometimes, especially when I was homeless, every hour of every day, is this part. It's under a section called Dreams Begets Reality. Again, think about Saturday. Think about me standing there holding this in my hand in front of the whole world. Dreams begets realities. The greatest achievement was at first and for a time a dream. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities. Though your circumstances may be uncongenial, they shall not long remain so, but perceive an idea and strive to reach it. You cannot travel within and stand still without. Here is a youth, hard pressed by poverty and labor, confined long hours in an unhealthy workshop, unschooled and lacking all the arts of refinement. But he dreams of better things. He thinks of intelligence, of refinement, of grace and beauty. He conceives of and mentally builds up an ideal condition of life. The vision of a wider liberty and a larger scope takes possession of him. Unrest urges him to action, and he utilizes all his spare time and means, small though they are, to the development of his latent powers and resources. Very soon, So altered has his mind become that the workshop could no longer hold him. It has become so out of harmony with his mentality that it falls out of his life as a garment, is cast aside. And with the growth of opportunity which fit the scope of his expanding powers, he passes out of it forever. Years later, years and years and years later, we see this youth as a full grown man. We find him a master of certain forces of the mind, which he wields with worldwide influence and almost unequal power. In his hands, he holds the cords of gigantic responsibilities. He speaks, and lo, lives are changed. Men and women hang upon his words and remold their characters, and sun-like, he becomes the fixed and luminous center around which innumerable destinies revolve. He has realized the vision, not the idle wish, but the vision of his youth. He has become one with his ideal. And what I realize, what I have come to realize, what I have proven is that the only thing that took that man, and the book is called As a Man Thinketh, but ladies, please put As a Woman Thinketh, because this, ladies, this works. This is not just something that I came up with. This is not something that I just say, hey, let me do a show about this. No, this is a religion for me. This is showing what God had showed me through that scripture, is how all I had to do is change my thoughts, change my mind. Because in the last 29 years, I began to understand that one of the greatest things that you can ever do in your life is to create a sound. Create something that resonates long after you're gone. You have to understand and believe in your own story. That's what this show is about. Each week is, I say it at the top of the show and I say at the end, discover the value of your story. And in order for that to happen, in order for that, lo, he speaks, and minds are changed, souls are changed, spirits are changed, energy. For you have to believe in your own sound. When you look back at history, when you look back at all the people, this is Black History Month. And what we're really celebrating in Black History Month is people of color, men and women of color, who believed in their sound so much that people talk about it. People study about it. They understand, how did that happen? Imagine creating something in your life so profound, so extraordinary, so phenomenal that someone years, decades, centuries later describes your work, your symphony, your sound, as if they were listening to the voice of God. What I want you to understand, that whether you're talking about As a Man Thinketh, or whether you're talking about Romans 12, verse 2, if you're going to transform who you are, if you're going to believe in the things that you do, the only way you get there, is by a story. Nothing has value without a story. And what this show is about is showing you in real time what happens when you believe. When you believe, people ask me, what was it like? What was it like standing there on Saturday evening in front of all those people? There were people, there were television stations from, like, I don't know, 20 different countries. The people who had honorees were pulled from all different kinds of places. And it was a unbelievable experience. And I want to tell you all about it. I want you to feel it. I want you to understand that the way I got there is through that scripture, not as a man think or as a man thinketh, but not Romans 12, but the words, the feelings, the understandings of what Romans 12:2 was in the book that God gave me. He just gave me a different book. And what I'm going to tell you on the other side, after we deal with paying our bills, is what it felt like to be there at that moment. So I'll see you on the other side. Every time I see that commercial, you gotta know that there's a part of me that sits there and says, "Is that you? Yeah, that's really me. I can't believe it. Is that really you?" I want you to really get that. Someone asked me, "Am I still on a high?" I'm going to be on a high forever. I don't know if I'll ever, because now that I know that it works, and I've known that it works for a long, long time because I've seen it. I've seen all that little commercial again. Thank you for my wonderful executive producer, Barbara Beckley, for putting that whole montage together. But what I want to impress upon you, that this is not just me. This is when you understand the powers of stories, you begin to understand, you begin to see your life as a story. It's not that I haven't gone through all kinds of trials and tribulations in my life. Homelessness, uh, two, almost three divorces. Like I told you, my last relationship was just 10 years. We weren't married, but for all intents and purposes, we was married. Death chilled my children that I don't really talk about. The death of my children, being isolated, money problems, all kinds of things. And yet, out of all that experience, out of all that negative things, came what you saw on Saturday night. And that's not because I have just said, oh, well, just forget about it. It's okay. I began to understand where it fits into my story. As I told you in the beginning, that there's 7 elements to every story. There's sound, the initial direction, there's passion, the reason why you get up in the morning, the things that you would fight a dragon for. The hero is the bridge between you and the audience. The audience has got to feel that you have gone through what you've gone through, that you're coming from a point of view that of that you have experienced it, and you're telling others. The antagonist is the obstacle That's the thing that you have to get over. And oftentimes the antagonist is not external, the antagonist is internal. So you have to defeat the thing that has been holding you back inside of your heart, inside of your spirit. A lot of people, everybody has a sound, everyone has something that they can do, but most people, so many people, don't hear their own sound. We talk about awareness. What you saw was awareness. What you see every week when you come is awareness. And awareness is that moment in your story where you begin to understand this is not something that I can do. This is something that I have to do. The next element in the story is transformation. That's where people around you begin to see what you do, begin to see how that works. When they said 2021 teacher of the year, I'm not saying that I am the best teacher in the world. Oh my God, I know 10 teachers off the top of my head. Like Mr. Greeby, okay, like Miss Chambers. There's so many teachers that Dr. Booker, there's so many teachers that I have seen in my career that are magicians, that are just unbelievable teachers and educators, like Professor Thomas, who teaches African American studies, who have embodied what it means. And there's so many people in my life who have been extremely talented and incredible teachers. But so when I say teacher of the year, for me, the way that resonates is that the story that I've been telling resonated with people. People began to understand what I'm talking about, my sound, the way I see the world. And because of the way I've told that story, because of the way that story resonates with me, people got it. People heard me when I said, standing my acceptance speech, what I said was, how wonderful it was to stand in a church, the yellow box where the Oscar gala was held in Naperville, Illinois, was a church. It's a huge church. And standing in front of 1,000 people and all the people that was televised, 35 million people supposedly. And when I said that, it was amazing because I made a promise to God 29 years ago that if I ever got out of homelessness, and there was so many days when it didn't seem like it was ever going to happen. I think about it. This really not a day that I don't think about just what it felt like to be there, to be utterly alone, to have absolutely nothing, where where minutes seem like hours, where it really didn't matter whether it was Monday or Friday or Sunday or Wednesday. It was the same day. It was just utter survival. And from that experience, from that horror, from that terrifying experience, and again, I'm a man, one, two, I'm a Marine, 14 years, so I knew how to survive. I knew how to make fires. I knew how, because I'm a scientist, I knew how to, what foods that I can take out of the garbage and still was safe to eat without being sick. I knew how to do different types of hygienic things and digging holes and all kinds of ways to survive. But when I think about what it took to get through that, and here I am on this grand stage in front of all these people, I couldn't help but think to myself, how did I get there? And it's really about understanding your value. It's really about understanding what moves you. What is the music that lives inside of your heart, that lives inside of your mind? And it doesn't matter what you do. If you're a truck driver, then strive to use that story of why you drive trucks. Why do you drive trucks? What does it mean when you drive a truck? The responsibility that you feel to bring gas, supplies, groceries, milk, whatever you bring while you're driving that truck. Think about how many lives that you touch. So as you're driving that truck, strive to create the story in your head that you are the best truck driver in the world. That your message on how to drive a truck is the quintessential example of how truck drivers could be. Take ladies, take especially moms. Oh my God. Oh my God. Think about how many things that you do right now as you're listening to my voice and watching the show. Think about all the different things that you're going to do in your day. And then step back and realize that how many people can't do what you do so effortlessly, that there's so many people that would love to have that gift, that talent, that skill. Understanding the connection between gemstones and people really is about the connection, the bridge. It's the story. It's the story. When I stood there on that stage and talked to all those people, nobody I knew except the people, Professor Thomas, who nominated me, the two people who won the Golden Ticket Award, and Greg Thompson, Linda Davis, okay, Michael, they were there with me, and I didn't know anyone else really there, but yet my sound resonated with them. How did that happen? I didn't have the connections. I'm not a part of a fraternity or this organization, this, that. I'm sitting here teaching the same guy that you would walk past the street 29 years ago and say, oh my God, look at him. Oh, he smells horrible. That guy was on that stage. And I say that not to impress you. I say that to impress upon you. That is what is available for you in your life. Tell a story. And the most important person that you have to tell a story to is to yourself. That's what prayers are. I begin to understand the purpose of prayers. Prayers are not just something that you say. Prayers are something, is your way of communicating that story to God. And the more you communicate that story to God, the better the you've increased the chances of it happening, because like the only book that I understand in the Bible is Job. The only book I understand, because Job, no matter what the devil did to Job, Job was like, I don't care. I don't care. I know that all the things that God has got me before, take all that away, because I know that God will give me back that and then some, because I'm never going to stop believing in him. And if I can say that, someone who doesn't go to church, someone who got 3 Bibles, I tell you, I got one here, I don't know what the other 2 are. If I can understand that, if God has put that in myself, in my life, to understand that, and I know about maybe 4 scriptures now, and Romans 12:2 is the 4th one. Just imagine what could happen to you. Just imagine what could happen to you in your life when you begin to understand the power of stories, because from the power of stories comes what? An understanding of value. People, when you begin to understand the value of your stories, when you begin to understand the value of what you have in your life, the people, the things, whatever you have in your life, when you can sit back and see how it all fits into overall. So even the people who don't like you, even the haters, and Lord knows, I know what haters are. There are people right now who are, some people out there, maybe not a lot, but there's people out there watching this show religiously who are just waiting for me to fail, or just sick of seeing me, or just whatever. And Sure, you can be upset about it. Sure, you can be defensive about it, but everything. But I find that when you understand the power of stories, you put those people in where they should be. They're the antagonists. They're the antagonists. They're the obstacles that you have to overcome or ignore. Just like a gemstone, you either accept this gemstone is red because of all the other colors of the spectrum, of the visible spectrum, right? Let's put the science into it. This gemstone is red because of all the other colors of the spectrum. The molecular structure of this gemstone, aluminum oxide, rubies, that structure decided what it was going to absorb and what was it going to reflect. Yellow's there, blue is there, but aluminum oxide with a hint of chromium creates a situation where it reflects, it absorbs all the other colors, but it reflects colors. So that's what you see. That's the story of a ruby. Now let's put that in terms of you. What value do you have for yourself? Forget about anybody else. What value do you have? What thing is it that what thing that you can do that excites you, that empowers you? A few months ago, we had Sonia Wilson, who she told us that her godfather would make sweet potatoes. And she told about how she had a family that would eat sweet potato. Her family would eat sweet potatoes from a can, but her godfather would make fresh sweet potatoes. And from that story, Sonia has grown up to create a business using the recipes, the inspiration of her godfather to create a business around sweet potatoes. That's what I'm talking about. When you look at the people in African American history, Black history, you look at all the people who had ideas, that had thoughts, and they did it despite Jim Crow, despite lynchings, despite the abuse and the racism and all this stuff. They did it anyway. I think of oh, I can't think of her name right now. The first the first millionaire who created hair products because she didn't stop, despite all the people telling her that she couldn't do it. Madam Walker, sorry, C.J. Walker, thank you. I'm sitting there thinking, what is the name? Madam C.J. Walker. Think about where she was. And she really was a scientist. Think about it. She had no training whatsoever in formal school, and she created a whole empire using trial and error because she believed in her story. She believed in what she could do. She didn't let anything happen. When you begin to hear your sound, you have to make a decision that you're going to hear the sound above and beyond all the other sounds that's going on around you. I've decided to take what I do on a weekly basis. And I thank you so much for your comments. I thank you for the inspiration that you guys do. And I read the comments all the time. And I wanted to create another platform to get people, especially women, but people. I shouldn't just say women, the people, to understand how the whole concept of gemology works in relationships. So many things that I understand. I just told you, I've been in 3 marriages, lots of relationships. There's things that I understand now that I didn't understand before. And if I had known about gemology later on, earlier on in my life, I really understood the power, some of the things that I've done. I'm not even talking about blaming them. Some of the things that I have done, some of the relationships that I have been involved in would have been better because part of the problem was, when I really think back, was that one, I didn't understand their value, and I certainly didn't understand my own. So we're going to create a thing called Clubhouse, and Clubhouse is this new social media thing, and I'm going to create with Barbara Beckley a clubhouse, a room, a room rather. It's called. I'm still getting the terminology down. Called the Love Lab, and the Love Lab is going to be a place where people can begin to work out the whole concept of value in regards to their own relationships, because you have to begin to feel good about yourself. You have, before you can get into a relationship with other people, you have to understand who you are. I talk about it all the time. Gem identification. And because of the business that I'm in, as far as jewelry, being a gemologist is there's a difference between being a gemologist and being a gemological storyteller. A gemologist is someone who just deals with the nuts and bolts of gemstones. You know, this is a ruby, this is aluminum oxide, this is, it has a hint of chromium, and the specific gravity is this, and the hardness is this, and it's found here. That's nice. And that's wonderful, and that's important. But a gemological storyteller basically is the person who looks at it on a deeper level. And that is the kind of thinking that's involved when it should be involved when you get involved with another person. You have to begin to understand how that person fits into the story. And that's the really power of it, where you can take the haters, you can take people that love you, you can take people that are somewhere in the middle, and see where they fit into your overall story. I lost a person, a friend of mine, also, that I found out while I was going to receive my Oscar. A good friend of mine, Homer. You've seen him before. Homer, who was on this show when I was talking about the Marine Corps. Homer and Donald, and both of them are Marine Corps veterans like myself. We went to high school together. We went to boot camp together. We didn't even know it. Homer calls me up as I'm driving to the Oscar ceremony, and it was strange because I saw the area code 910, which I knew was North Carolina because I spent so many years stationed there, and I was like, "Who's calling me from North Carolina?" And I wasn't going to take the call. And I said, "No, let me take the call." And I took it, and it was Homer. And I thought he was calling me about the Oscar ceremony, but no, he was calling me about something else. And I thought about it. I said, "Homer, I can't talk to you right now. I'm driving. I'll call you once I get there." And once I got set up and we did a couple of interviews, I called him back. I said, "Hey, Homer, what's up?" And he told me, and when I hung up the phone, I said to myself, somebody died. Because I couldn't understand why Homer would call me and I felt like he didn't know about the Oscar ceremony. So he was calling me something else. And he told me that a former girlfriend of mine, who we dated for just the magical couple months, went to high school, went to junior high school with me. I grew up with her. She died. She died. So here I was on the greatest moment of my life. And I thought about how someone that I knew, that I had been with, that I had spent time with, that I loved, even for a brief amount of time that I loved, was no longer here. I went to the wake of Ronald, the young man that I did a show on a few weeks ago, the one that was killed, murdered for a pair of sneakers. I went to his wake on Sunday. So here in just the last week, I've had Ronald in this month, Ronald dying, Ronald Coppage on one end, and then the other end, Donna Smith Williams, who died, who massive heart attack, just before her birthday. Her birthday is February 14th. And that happened on February 4th. So she died, 60 years old, didn't even make 61. And in the middle of that is this unbelievable moment, this magnificent moment in my life where I'm standing in front of the world receiving a congressional medal and an Oscar. And you have to step back in your life and say, how does this all fit? I'm not talking about crying. I've had my crying. I've had my sadness, depression, all kinds of things that I went through. But the thing that brought me back is understanding where that person was in my story. Ronald was the first child that told me when I began teaching. Here I'm receiving the Global Teaching Teacher of the Year award, and the first child that ever told me that he wanted to be a scientist just like me, he's gone. 18 years old. On the other end is my childhood friend who I knew when I was Ronald's age, who had a massive heart attack and died, with literally lost oxygen to the brain, was put on life support, vegetative, and they pulled her, like, she died. And here is what you have to do in your life is to see how that fits into the story, because when you understand that as a story, then you have more control over how it affects you, what you want to absorb and what you want to reflect. That's what this show is about every week, showing you in gemstones, in something that's tangible, something that you can see, how that analogy you can make to your own life. So we'll be doing more shows about, or at least starting May 5th or May 4th, March 4th and 5th, we're going to start this thing called Clubhouse, where people are going to have, not going to be a shouting match about, oh, you should do this, about valuing yourself. What does it mean to be in a relationship? Not only just a relationship with the person that you're talking about, but more importantly, the relationship with yourself. Seeing how you can, who you are, what you want in a relationship, what you need, and how does that work together to create the person, to help create the person that you want to be. So I look forward to working and doing this show, continuing this show week after week. Again, thank you for all of you who have supported me. This, you only see one person here, and this is me, but to me, the base is all the people who have helped me get to that point. You see one person, but standing on that is all the shoulders, all the people, all the love and support of people who have given me over all these over 2 decades to get me to that point. And I love and appreciate each and every one of you who have had that part in that chapter in my life. So again, my name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a gemological storyteller. And what I would like for you to do is to take a time in your day, take time in your life, and begin to think about who you are and discover the value of your own story. Until then, au revoir, à te tella. See you next week.